at potentially some of the 80 carries. Again, Jinx, Misfortune, Varus, Ashe, all of these champions are gone. And something that we noted at the very top of day is that there is mysteriously low Corki prioritization for both of these teams.
Whoa.
And we're just getting the instant slam from RNG. We're getting a Yone and a Karthus.
All right, hey, it's game 4 of Fearless. They technically have a game to work with. If they wanted to try something out on stage, this would be a time to do it. You know, milkyway, we talked about how much better he was in the meta with AD junglers versus AP junglers, but maybe it's time to put an end to those narratives with the Karthus being locked in here alongside Tangyuan's Xion.
Holy, oh my god. I mean, we're getting AP junglers. Now, I will say, Grapes, AP junglers have not been kind to Milky Way. If anybody watched that Nidalee game from Demacia Cup, you know.
Yeah.
True Demacia Cup watchers are true knowers. So maybe they're already on board with that. But his AP champions have not been great. And this is also a champion that doesn't have a lot of individual agency. He has a slow, but there's no real dashes. This champion is also very, very reliant on being able to scale. So you need your team to play a solid game by yourself. And that, I don't think, has been RNG's kind of strong spot. We've been criticizing both of these teams for some of their mid-game decision-making, and Karthus is really, really focused on making sure that he hits his items.
Well, I think the big X factor in the last 2 games that allowed for RNG to win was the fact that Milky Way was able to make impact on the map early, whether it was the Lee Sin in Game 2 or the Xin Zhao in Game 3. The Game 1 he had on Viego, no kill participation until about 20 minutes in. And then they ended up losing the game because, you know, FPX got a good fight and just were able to snowball. That is what I'm worried about with this Karthus lock-in. It's going to be a lot of farming, not a lot of early ganks. So it's going to be up to Xiaoxu, Tangyuan, and JiaQi to really just put their own skills to the test in these individual lanes.
So many 80 carries are gone. Aphelios, Jinx, like we were saying earlier, they're going for Tristana, Alistar. Now, obviously, everybody who was watching the competitive meta last year got a whole lot of Tristana for the entire year. And if you're an LTA or LCS fan, you saw Tristana even before that, thanks to someone like APA really putting up numbers on this champion. So this is an old school bot lane. It's going to be a bot lane that's really focused on the 2v2. Corki and Leona are very strong skirmishers. So as long as we kind of see them kind of going for fights, I really am expecting that first blood to be predominantly in that bottom lane. And now we're looking at here for FPX. I'm looking at this Nidalee, and Nidalee just loves this game right now.
Gonna have a good opportunities to impact, I think, that bottom lane specifically. A lot of aggression here for JiaQi and Lele, which can be punished, especially with, you know, Sivir blocking the crowd control, and if Sara is able to make an impact down there. R5 going to go towards Xiaoxu in the top lane. See a couple of different hovers to match up against this Udyr. I think you're mostly ignoring the laning phase here, just trying to find something that is going to be good team fighting and something that can match the rest of the composition. The Aatrox fits that bill.
Okay. This RNG roster is notoriously very short-ranged. However, they do have tons of way of cheating range. Obviously, all of Yone's kit. Please nerf this champion. Karthus can press the ultimate and kind of access all different champions. For FPX, it is going to be a battle of inches for them. How can they maximize the amount of gold that we can get someone like Sara on this Italy? Because Karthus is not particularly very dangerous in the early game, and you can invade this guy. So RNG need to get early vision, track where Sara is, and stop him from finding any small advantages. Otherwise, he could very easily just chip away at Karthus. Hey, here's a camp here. I steal a Gromp here. I steal a Krugs here. And suddenly, Karthus is down maybe like 1,500 gold, and Nidalee just kind of runs through, one-shots him in the jungle, and the game's over.
So, unlike previous games where I feel like a lot of the onus was on Milky Way, for FPX this time around, it's going to be their jungler, Saro, who has to make some of these early plays, utilize this Nidalee's early game counter jungling, as well as just ability to make plays across the map for FPX to force a game 5. Because remember, if RNG win this, they win the series. It's going to be 3-1. They go up 1-0 in Group D, and will await both IG and NIP. FPX don't want that to happen yet. We'll see if they can stop it here in Game 4.
such a big win, I think, for RNG. If they're able to take this, I think when we came into this, we were obviously expecting that these two teams, at least from community sentiment, are going to be teams that are looking to be, you know, fighting for that 3rd and 4th spot. But decent wins, and specifically trying to build a resume for how these teams can find upset victories versus an IG, versus a Ninjas in Pajamas, is kind of what we are looking for as a broadcast and as a community.
Now we'll see what happens here if our dreams are answered in game number 4. Looks like we're going to see, once again, some standard lanes, as I am very curious about what this Tristana is going to be able to provide here for JiaQi. A very different play style from the Varus and the Aphelios that we saw him succeed at Alk, and especially because we haven't really seen much of Tristana bot lane in recent patches. It's been a lot of mid lane, soul lane Tristana. The champion operates very differently when it's put in a 2v2.
Yeah, I'm just going to go on Gold GG and look up when the last time we actually got Tristana in the bottom lane in LPL. Because it's been, I would say, probably within a year. We are getting some 80 carry. I'm just taking a look, because most of them are going to be mid laners, right? But Xiaoxu, Scream Crowd. Oh, my God. Oh, we're level 1-ing.
The blind Zenith played in from Jwei actually goes probably back to bite him a little bit, as JiaQi and Lele were able to make the most out of that exchange, taking a few hundred health off of the Leona's HP bar, as the junglers, both starting bot lane, will make their way towards that top lane matchup between Shira and Xiaoxu, which I would say has been pretty entertaining so far. I don't know if we're going to see that much in terms of sparks flying in this Aatrox versus Udyr 1v1 though.
All right, I found it. Photic was the last person to play NIP versus JDG in spring playoffs, which would have been around the time that they found lane swaps as well from the side of NIP. So pretty interesting. That was in April of last year, so
oh, wow.
7 months almost, or closer to that. Sorry, I'm off. That's 9 months. Oops.
The biggest thing is that it's like kind of serves as a flex pick as well, right? Where that's where it holds some power, and so even in situations where it wasn't picked in the bottom lane role, like the fact that it was potentially a concern.
Okay, so Sorrow got spotted here.
Oh wow! So knows now that milkyway is like skip the red buff to avoid a situation like this. Does pick up the smite. That is a big win for Sorrow. milkyway has the blue buff, so we'll be able to regenerate enough mana, but just cannot afford to fight a 1v1 against Sorrow, so that red buff most likely gone.
Well, now he's also just going to get 3 quadrants, right? Like, it's going to be Sorrow taking the Krugs. He's already taken the red buff. Now he has access to the other side, like his quadrant, to get the blue buff as well. This is what my big worry for picking this Karthus so early on, is that you need to have extremely dominant lanes if you want to be able to stop her from finding invades like this.
And because of that, you know, you see the range versus melee for Care was what made him able to push Tangyuan in, and Sheer able to hold his own very nicely against the Aatrox. So milkyway gonna have to settle for the consolation prize of a Scuttle Crab in the bottom side river, while it's gonna be a 3-camp lead for Sorrow on this Nidalee. A very good start for FPX.
Nidalee for Sorrow, 6 games played, 2-4. Care has flash. Yeah, it should just be out of this. This is going to help for Tangyuan to find a recall in the mid lane. Maybe pick up a couple more items for himself. Going to get closer. The problem that I have with Yone is, aside from his kit just being insanely bonkers, his build can be very robust. Can go for a tank build, has all of those crate itemization kind of buffs that you get. I don't think this is a real gank. Milky Way is just incredibly homeless right now.
Yeah, he's got nothing better to do, so might as well just head down to the bottom lane. Chunk Jwei out, not going to be enough to kill, obviously, but still forcing these laners to head back to base, allowing for JiaQi and Tangyuan to get slight lane advantages, or at least a little bit of breathing room. As the second spawn of camps have now arrived, Milky Way looking to try to pick up these Krugs, as he wasn't able to get the spawns in his own jungle, but Sorrow will say, nope, that belongs to me, and now is up almost an entire level over Milky Way.
Milky Way has his camps, and they are going to be the respawn camps, but in the time that it takes him to finish this bottom side quadrant, you can already see Sorrow, he's going to finish his Raptors, move straight through mid lane, and try to attack him at that camp. So the Raptors are going to be a big point for this team, and I would not be surprised if we get a miniature skirmish here around this kind of, around this camp, because I think just respawn Raptors for every jungler is like literally gold.
Yeah, everyone. That's always, I feel like, a camp that junglers maybe over-index a little bit just because of how powerful it is. Maybe and looks like that's not going to happen as Sorrow does head back to base. Looks like Milky Way should be able to pick these up rather handily and not create a situation where anybody gets particularly caught out. Got the Grubs though spawning in 10 seconds, and it looks like Sorrow and the rest of FPX want to be set up for that. They send a bot to the top side of the map so he'll be able to fight for this objective.
And they know where Milky Way is. That ward coming in from Care, maybe they try to find him in mid lane, but with Jwei walking into the lane, doesn't mean that Lele is going to just end up going towards the bottom side of the map. Sorrow starting up the Grubs here. They know Milky Way is on the Krugs. They pinged him out. They know exactly where he is. He's not going to even be anywhere near having level 6 here. So if they want, maybe FPX, after this, either they look for something on the Xiaoxu or they go towards the bottom side of the map and relieve Sheer of some of his duties and potentially even go for a dragon.
Interesting to see how Sheer's champion pool has kind of not been the big bruiser, big fighters that we've maybe grown to expect from him. Like his Jax was so powerful in the LPL last season. Obviously, with it being picked by Xiaoxu in game number 1, not a possibility. But instead, he's going to be the target on the Aatrox this time around. Tops the world ender, but the rest of his squad has arrived. Jwei just gets caught under the turret, and it's RNG picking up first blood.
Uh-oh, so that's a feat of strength going over to RNG. And while they haven't been able to get any of these epic monsters, you have to imagine with a team that has Tristana and Yone, first turret is not going to be too far away in their future if they're able to get some alone time, especially with how these lane allocations have been going. Great job from RNG to answer on the dive. Milky Way, coming off of a reset, just walks up top lane, gets himself an assist, and he'll finally be able to get himself a blue buff as well. So all of these respawn camps are doing pretty well, and this is the problem with Italy, is you need to be super good on making sure that you're stealing camps, that you're contesting, and a single wrong play makes it so that a ton of other champions are just, it's easier to execute.
And it must have just been a mistiming on the back timer of Lele, or just not knowing where Milky Way was or something, because if they knew it was a 3v3, they would have never gone for that dive.
Yeah, I'm assuming, they're like, hey, he should be on his Krugs. We just took the entire Gromp, or the entire Scuttle Grubs, so like he should just take his reset, go towards the bottom side of the map. That it doesn't end up being the case, and they get punished for it. So now a kill in their back pocket. Xiaoxu with this should be able to find himself with his Eclipse just a little bit earlier than his opponent, but I don't think it matters all that much. I mean, you're playing into Udyr. This champion is the big nullifier. Oh my god, Sorrow, do it to him. Do it to him.
As you said, if you're playing this Nidalee, you got to stay aggressive. Sorrow chunking down Milky Way to half HP, and even though the red buff will reset, with the help of the control ward he placed a couple of minutes ago, Sorrow able to claim yet another red buff for himself. That's what you got to do on this Nidalee. Continue to apply the pressure, and Sorrow's doing a good job at that right now.
You'll be a great healer. You have great long-range damage, but very, very difficult to land that spear, especially if you are behind or if you don't have the vision for it. So Dragon started up here for RNG. They're going to take this objective and maybe look for something in mid. Care and Sorrow are on their way, but they're walking straight into the arms of RNG.
Lele looking to try and punish here. There
let's go, Lele.
Tangyuan all the way from underneath his own turret. Care just goes down. JiaQi gets on the board. And so RNG, despite all the shenanigans that have been happening in the jungle, find themselves up 2 kills, up a dragon, up a little bit of gold, and not going to be able to pick up a kill top lane, but things looking all right for them so far.
That was a beautiful play from Lele. In the middle of his Alistar headbutt, predicts alongside Care's flash, gets the knockup anyway, and still is able to find the kill for his team. Incredible stuff there, and I just want to go through this replay, and again, give flowers to the support player. So, does this, gets the flash here, and that just makes the play in its entirety. Great job from the Alistar to find this, and RNG are starting to get away with this game. Yes, Sorrow is ahead. He had all of that early bullying, but we're at 10 minutes. It's 2 kills going out of our RNG, and you have to still be feeling pretty comfortable about their position in this game. It's going to come down to, can we get 6 grubs? Then can we actually hit turrets? Then can we snowball this game for us as FPX?
And it's only 300, 400 gold right now. That separates the 2 junglers, and they're the same level, or just, sorry, Sorrow just dinged 8, so not too big of a difference in terms of XP right now. The big thing is that Milky Way has the Requiem now, and so we'll be able to impact the map, get a little bit of damage chunks down in any area, no matter if he's farming or part of the gank himself. Next spawn of grubs available. FPX certainly want to pick this up to get themselves closer to that piece of strength. And they're going to start with an engage onto said jungler. Milky Way gets bursted down with the help of Jwei, and a big fate sealed. It's going to try to turn things around for RNG. Already 2 are dead on the other side. Xiaoxu with the World Ender unlocked will heal a ton, but is not going to escape the wrath of Care, who now is just eviscerating people with the Gatling gun in the front line. That is another kill for Care. Bot flashing over. That's the counter aggression we were talking about, but JiaQi will answer right back with a kill of his own. The 80 carry duel goes RNG's way. Sheer trying to take him down, and will, despite the rocket jump lumbing through. Tangyuan flashes over. We got chaos in the mid lane. It's 10 kills in 11 minutes.
There it is. We get the big explosion of action here. If there was ever a time for some more voracious Otacon to spawn, it's gonna be right about now. And finally, we get that huge play. Milky Way had the flash, but didn't want to invest it, didn't want to use it in that moment, so dies to Jwei, and now FPX get to start up these grubs. If they get more of these, they're going to at least get the Void Mites be able to spawn, and that's going to be 4 for them. There's no play on the opposite side of the map. They use so many of their summoner spells as well. There's going to be FPX now finding themselves with 2 epic monsters and putting themselves closer and closer to gaining that feat of strength.
So FPX still going to be able to gain control. Of course, a lot of it has to do with Sorrow being very far ahead. Milky Way here in the area, trying to smite one of them out. Getting the 6 out of 6 definitely hurts you, and so Milky Way and RNG going to get some level of an answer here by at least claiming one of those grubs, if not just a moral victory, getting some slight advantages there. Gold still very, very close after that last fight, as we have another fight down here in the side lane. Care gets away from the chains, and so Xiaoxu burns the ultimate but is unable to find the kill.
You see it, FPX pings are coming down. They know there's no ultimate coming in from this Aatrox, so a lot of options. Camps. They can go for a dive. It seems like Jwei's going to pull the minion wave just a little bit, see where it's at. There's no minions to kind of go for this, so instead going to just take a single camp. Sorrow trying to accentuate more of this lead here, as it's so tentative. This game feels super close. It's only 200 gold. We get a replay of this fight. Milky Way doesn't even flash the Leona ult. Maybe just thinks he's out of the the center of it, so think he's only going to get hit with the slow. But that right there turns to their doom, as JiaQi is just finding reset after reset. And as this game goes forward, if we are able to get to a couple of items, my eyes are going to be on Sheer. When you are playing this Udyr, you're going to become super obnoxious with the champions of their enemy team. And this is the kind of the play that we were expecting coming out from Demacia Cup. Bot with the flash, doesn't have enough attack speed, and ends up just standing there and dying over to JiaQi.
JiaQi having himself a really good series overall. Even on this Tristana, a bit of a different pick. Lets the aggression come to him and ends up getting rewarded. Picks up the Yuntal Windblades, 3-1-1, up over 1,000 gold here. The rookie having himself a performance to remember.
Both of them, I think, have been doing obviously pretty well, with Bot just unfortunately the rest of his team also kind of falling apart at the seams. But yeah, like you were saying, JiaQi and Lele have been doing a fantastic job so far in this series. And fun to watch, especially for a region that has produced so many great AD carries in the past. So only nice to see the new class of marksman players coming on through from the LPL. But for the time being, it's going to be Tangyuan actually soloing the Dragon for his team. And that'll put them at 2 epic monsters. We have the Dragon spawning in 5. We have Herald in a minute. that right there is going to be the feat of strength for 3 epic monsters for both of these teams ready to go. And that'll be Boots upgrade if RNG are able to secure it.
That would be another little tiny power spike that would continue to help RNG move this game along. We talked so much about how big of an impact Sorrow had on the early game, really taking milkyway, one of their best players, out of the game, for at least for a little bit. But the rest of the team able to work without him. Tangyuan specifically able to get a lead largely on his own. JiaQi picking up kills and also becoming a big problem. So RNG is still very much in good position, despite their best player having perhaps a subpar performance.
There's going to be an issue that's going to arise here for the side of RNG where they need someone who's going to be able to match Care. Anytime you have Void Mites and you have the Void Grubs here, you cannot leave someone alone on the side lane. That's why Xiaoxu was actually starting to channel his recall and then said, oh, I actually have to catch another wave with Milky Way here in order for me to not just immediately lose our turret. Because 5 grubs plus a Trinity Force, especially for someone like Corki, very easy for him to just walk up and delete a turret. So that right there, you got to show a bit of respect to your opponents, and we'll see what the setup for RNG is going to look like. They are constantly just kind of pushing out from mid, utilizing this Tristana to get a bit of mid push, but Herald is now up, and we're going to start to do our little dance.
Not the Baron, but still a big objective, especially in, you know, for somebody like RNG. You have a lot of turret taking power with the Tristana, with a burst open mid would be huge. And right now it looks like they could be in that position as Jwei just gets one shot. It's Lele picking up the kill, but JiaQi did most of that work. But he went aggressive around this area just a few minutes ago.
Oh, Sorrow, no!
Sorrow, who might have bit off a little bit more than he could chew, and Xiaoxu flashes in with the World Ender and picks up the first reset of the fight for RNG. Care backs away, will be able to go to safety, but RNG win the fight. They get 2 for 1.
Okay, they need to grab this Rift Herald if they want the feat of strength. Instead, recognizing that maybe we just go for some mid lane waves. They cannot leave Sivir alone in mid lane. If she was able to just sit here while they're doing this objective, that's going to turn into, again, getting that turret for themselves. So, showing respect. Sorrow is going to respawn, have some camps ready to go on top side if he wants to just be in this area. Kara is also still pushing in top lane. We can take a look at this fight. Yeah, Jwei just takes too much damage. Good job from RNG and the rest of the squad to kind of say, like, hey, keep paying attention because we've got lethal here.
Just a little bit too much. And then you see Sorrow just trying to...
The flash on the wall was painful.
Ultimate
happens.
The Alistar with ultimate active? It's not normally what you're supposed to be doing on a Nidalee, unfortunately. So Sorrow, despite picking up his early CS lead, is now starting to fall behind a little bit, and that's how things can really just turn on its head by the snap of a finger when you are playing this Nidalee. All of a sudden, Milky Way right back on a nearly even playing.
2 items coming in soon for JiaQi. You have Milky Way coming up on 2 items. Once you have this Blackfire Torch and Leandri's duo, I mean, Karthus can just kind of play a build where he walks into the enemy team and just tries to apply as much damage with his E as possible. You have that alongside the Requiem, and suddenly FPX are looking at starting fights off 30 to 40% missing of their HP.
Oof. It's still tight though. I mean, Care certainly having himself a very good game. If he's able to just dish out a bunch of damage and play these front to back team fights correctly with bot,
They're gonna get their turret here.
FPX in a good position, but right now it is RNG leading the charge, setting the pace of this game number 4. They trade towers. Care's able to pick.
Wait,
it
who
up.
got it first though? Oh, it's
who got the first
RNG.
objective.
Oh,
Waiting for the graphic update. It is RNG, so they get the upgraded boots. They get that feat of strength buff.
Oh man, I looked at the boots and I saw that RNG got it first, but that was incredibly close. I mean, Care had the grubs. They're doing a TP for this.
And now he might get punished for it as well as Tangyuan's in. It could be a battle of the soul laners, though, as Sheer is there to match with this teleport of his own. Looks like instead both sides are going to back off. Rift Herald was taken by FPX and bot. They could use this mid lane to basically instantaneously take down that mid tier 1 with the wave clear of Sivir.
They still also could just muscle up on this mid wave if they really wanted to. It's probably going to be on this next incoming mid wave. that they're going to be looking for this. You have Otacon spawning in 20. You have Dragon that is now available, but you have Grubs. Any bit of damage you either do to champions near a turret or just hitting the turret, you should be able to evaporate this. And it's a cannon minion wave. Just look to trade this objective. You'll be stronger potentially on maybe that 4th Dragon. Tangyuan is finishing this objective by himself here.
Yeah, and I don't think FPX really realized it until now with that smart being placed. Looks like now
milkyway
is the option. milkyway gets caught. He still has the passive and the Requiem will come out, but that's a big member of RNG dead. Tangyuan in trouble. The Dragon is still alive, and that means that FPX could claim it if they win this fight. JiaQi still alive. So is Xiaoxu. Lola looking for potentially an escape route, but not going to find it. Sorrow picks up the kill. It's 3-0 FPX, and they're not done yet. JiaQi has to flash away from the Lele spear, and Tier 2 is now on the menu for FunPlus Phoenix. Screw the Dragon, they're headed towards Otacon.
Oh my god. Milky Way, we gotta flash these objectives, man. Come on. We can't just be letting the Leona ults land on us. The first time, fine, I can get it. Maybe the hitbox looked a little strange, but that time, dead on to rights. Milky Way gets caught. It ends up being a huge fight for them. Like you said, not going for the Dragon. I think you're perfectly okay with just trading for a voracious Otacon buff in your back pocket here. It's going to be RNG finding themselves at Soul Point here, but that buff is just too OP, and we'll see what they're able to do with it now that they have 2 core items on someone like Kara with this Corki.
Yeah, definitely going to have to use it to break the game open. There's that Solar Flare once again. Nicely done by Jwei, but also milkyway. Gotta get away from that one next time.
Jwei yet again finding the engages. We haven't really been able to see it in too many of the games since game 1 on that Nico, but he's finding Milky Way. Either he's asleep or he just has him completely downloaded, because there's no reason to be getting hit by Leona ult when you have flash. It is just you're saying, okay, I have Leona ult. You are either going to flash and lose a summoner spell, or you just die. And we keep seeing that Milky Way chooses death. He chooses to use the Karthus passive.
Which is, you know, not the worst thing to use the passive, obviously, but there's so much more damage that could be being dealt by Milky Way if he's able to get out of these fights just a little bit earlier. So instead, FPX have the Otacon buff. I'd imagine they really try to force hard for these next couple of minutes when they have this revive available to them. They don't necessarily need the Baron to push that, to have the good push, because they have double marksman here to clear these waves out. Tier 2 now on the menu. Looks like RNG gonna try to find a response.
Got hit again!
Kind, but they already have Milky Way chucked to half HP.
They hit him with a spear and another Leona ult. And this is more of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, because if you're Milky Way and they find another engage on you and they potentially look to try to snowball that into a team fight victory, then you're in a situation where it's, do I flash and potentially not have it now that they have Otacon buff? Or do I just say, look, if you find the engage on me, I'm just going to have to tank it. You have the Otacon buff. We just have to outweight this kind of period. They have 5 grubs. I think any bit of an engage, any purchase they can find on your backline means that they just blow open the game and put it in a state that is very hard to recover from. So FPX now, with a strong enough gold lead, they're hitting their items. 2 items here on this Nidalee, 2 on Care and on Bot. I think this is going to be the start of the game where RNG, if they can survive and kind of weather the storm, we will see this team end this series 3-1. But as of right now, FPX are in the driver's seat.
Yeah, and that was not something we could have said a couple of minutes ago, but now Care is very strong in this situation. Sheer is becoming tankier and tankier. Will be pretty difficult for, you know, this backline of RNG to burn through it rather quickly. And so, you know, with this Baron now spawning in about a minute or so, there's no more revive buff, but FPX still, I think, want to play aggressive here. They want to force RNG's hand while they have a lead.
5 grubs, might as well walk up on this turret and it evaporates like paper. So they're just trying to get so much damage. Man, Sorrow from Fog of War is just throwing spears and finding HP to take from RNG. And they've got another mini wave cannon this time. Just walk up, get those Void Mites down. Tangyuan has been trying to find some answers on the split push, but you're constantly getting matched by Udyr. It is a lost cause in that manner.
Yeah, I mean, Udyr can take up basically all of Yone's damage right now. It does have the Hull Breaker, so is opting more towards that side laning oriented playstyle, but of course we saw bot on the Jinx also play it and obviously teamfight because it's Jinx. Sheer? Doesn't know. Alright, this tower's dead. Oh, maybe JiaQi is too. Nice buffer from the Zenith Blade. That surely could have meant the AD carry going down and potentially disaster for RNG.
You know, it's a very funny piece of kind of thing you can kind of see on the map is that red buff has been alive for at least 5 minutes because it is a pre-red buff that spawned before the 20 minutes and it just hasn't been taken this entire time. So it's only the local red buff that gives a single copy to the teammates instead of a team-wide buff. Kind of sucks for someone like Tangyuan. He's like, guys, I'll get everybody red buff when we're chilling. It's like, oh, well, actually, wait a minute. This red buff is only local to whoever's in the stadium right now.
Or your Karthus to like run into the enemy red buff like right before the dragon spawns in order to pick it up, and that's obviously not gonna happen.
Yes, genius.
Bit tough, and so instead it'll be RNG just trying to pick up this soul. Will be available for them in a couple of seconds, less than a minute. They're sending out their resources actually mostly towards the top side of the map, perhaps looking for a dragon for Baron trade, or just knowing that FPX is clearing vision in the area as we speak.
There's also just so many blue wards coming in. Care walking in only takes a bit of chunk damage here. It's 500 damage immediately coming out from milkyway, but great vision control coming in from FPX means that they have complete awareness of where Milky Way is, where he's going towards on the map. They also have an idea, look, if he's on the top side, let's start looking for more of those camps. As we kind of see Sorrow, the gold lead has started to kind of shore up between the two of them for minions and camps, but it's all about those kills and all the objectives that we've really been able to see FPX take around the map.
Speaking of, they're going to get their first dragon, most likely, as Milky Way and the rest of RNG really focused around this Baron pit. Looks like they know that this is happening now as Tangyuan has joined the area and actually forces Sorrow out of the pit at least for a little bit. Now the rest of RNG wants to try to respond. FPX surely get this with the smite. Now the question is, can they get out with their lives? Not going to connect, so Tangyuan has to flash right back over the wall. Teleport comes in from Care. All 5 members of FPX in the mid lane, and they will all escape with their lives.
That was bold, Tangyuan. He's like, hey, I'll just walk over this wall with my ultimate. Oh god, there's 4 people. Get out of here. Flash back over the wall. We're back out of here.
Yeah, that's the one of them where you wish you did have your E, but instead it's to burn his flash and get back over the wall.
Yep.
Thankfully, nobody dies, and that means that we're going to stay in this rather hotly contested game for a little bit longer at the very least. Really waiting for that next team fight to break things open for one of these teams.
Okay. We'll see how OP this the ability to kind of take Otacon. We didn't see them actually utilize the free GA passive that they would have gotten from the buff. So really all they got from taking that is a little bit of experience, some gold for the team, but without them utilizing the buff, that's a pretty big win for FPX, who again, waiting for some of those items. Now 3 here on Care. I mean, it doesn't get much better for them. Finally, Leona ult that doesn't immediately snipe Milky Way.
What is he saving his flash? What is he saving his flash for? Game 5? I mean, he's really very patient with it, but I mean, ended up working out for him this time. But I'm just saying,
he's like in his head. He's like, okay, if I'm Milky Way, I'm like, is this Leona? If this Leona ult stuns me, then we just need to ask for this champion to get nerfed or something, because there's no way. Like the first one, again, kind of questionable. The second one, within the replay, I could see it maybe being a little like question mark just because of the Z-axis. But that one I would have been asking for a ref real quick. So
that's fair.
FPX doing a Baron dance. They want to try to take away as much vision as possible here from RNG. And with Nidalee alongside double marksman, you shred this Baron incredibly quickly. And if they're able to grab that for themselves, they should be able to push out on waves and look to contest for upcoming objectives like these dragons.
Not gonna be. It's gonna be a couple minutes until we see that dragon spawn. So now Baron really is the topic of conversation. If you are FPX, Sorrow and the gang going to start it up. They think that they have the advantage in a potential fight. Milky Way in the area does still have the flash to get over the pit, despite there being no blast cone in the vicinity. Baron at 9,000 HP. Looks like right now FPX are trying to bait a fight.
Okay, it's a pincer here.
Oh, big engage there for Lola. Xiaoxu coming in here with the World Ender as well, but JiaQi gets one shot. It's going to be a combination of Sorrow and the support, but look at the Requiem on the other side. That's a double kill for Milky Way, and RNG go 3 for 1. Sure, the ADC's down, but RNG have all 4 of the remaining members on the Baron on their own.
Now they have to reinforce with Tangyuan coming in. I was going to say, Milky Way, you got no mana, brother. You do no damage to this objective. It'll take them a little bit to grab it, but now with this Baron buff in their pocket, they should be able to utilize this, move into some of their side lanes, push in, and look for their soul as we get a replay of this. Great engage yet again from Lola. It's JiaQi who, unfortunately, alongside him has to sell it, but gets Care down to an execute threshold. And Karthus just lets the Requiem sing, finds 2 kills on this side, and it finally is a bit of relief for RNG, who have been struggling the past like 15 minutes to kind of close out and get that gold back into their side.
And now look at this. We are dead even, just 400 gold separating them. RNG gonna try to get a little bit more in their favor. That would have been nice to pick up that turret, but looks like that's not going to happen for a little bit. Question is, what can they do with this Baron buff that lasts for another 2 minutes? It looks like instead they just want to force another fight. Jwei going forward. Solar Flare lands onto JiaQi, but there's nobody to follow up, and instead it's just Leona going down for free. Xiaoxu, with the World Ender on, is going to get singled out and taken down. It'll be Sorrow picking up the shutdown. Now it's a 4v4. Dragon spawning in less than a minute. Advantage in terms of players that are on the map in this 4v4 go to FPX.
Oh, Milky Way's got to be so careful. They can run him down. You see the pings coming out. They don't know where he is. They thought maybe he was in this brush. If Sheer had continued to walk forward there, they would have found Milky Way, and that would have been a big proponent of their Baron. A great job to catch Jwei, but in the end, you lost quite a bit for that. You lost control of the mid wave, you lost control of this bottom side jungle, and that's 45 seconds before this dragon is going to spawn.
And it looks like right now RNG not in the best position to go towards it. Lola's going to have to be the one to start things off if they want to go for an engage. Xiaoxu does have teleport in 5 seconds once he respawns. There's a wave bottom if they want to go for an extended flank. Mid-prio now the name of the game as the dragon has been started up by FPX. Teleport comes in straight through mid. It looks like Xiaoxu and RNG going to try to utilize the last minute of their Baron buff to get a couple of objectives in response for the dragon.
But guys, the soul is so OP. Oh man. Just focus the soul. It would have been tough. The fighting through that position. They don't have Xiaoxu in a great spot to be able to kind of help them push in. Look at this gold graph, man. This is a city skyline with a sandbar out in the middle.
Yeah, this has been the closest game that we've had, I think, between these two teams so far, which is exciting because I feel like we had this as a close series. It could go 5 games, but all of them have been relatively one-sided. This is where we get the true LPL late game macro going here. 2 legendary organizations going at it here. Winner potentially in a good spot to lock up the quarterfinals, and Sheer could have been in trouble. Burns the Flash, has some of the CC immunity with the Ram stance to make sure he is not going to fall.
That's the last of the Barons, so 3 minutes before that objective is up and available again. They really just, guys, JiaQi, do the thing.
1 auto. That's all you need.
1 auto. Milky Way knows. Milky Way, just auto attack it, bro. Thank you. All right. So we finally got this top tier 1, but in terms of what it actually means is it looks like FPX are really, really focused on trying to push this lane out as far as they can, knowing that it's going to take a little bit for FPX to respond, and mostly just wanting to set themselves up for contesting this Baron in 2 minutes time, as it seems like we're just going to be going from epic monster to epic monster in terms of priority.
That means that we got a couple minutes to kind of set the stage again. I mean, what have you liked the most from each team in terms of how they're playing these fights? I feel like, in general, it's been both AD carries actually having really solid team fighting over these last couple of minutes.
I mean, they have to team fight in different manners. JiaQi with this Tristana can be a lot more aggressive and has so much more damage in his back pocket versus someone like Bot on the Sivir, who can eventually get to that mark but requires a very long team fight. And I will just say for both of these teams, it's been really impressive to see their bottom laners here, because we had a couple of questions as to whether or not, like, how this matchup was going to look. We were going to have two kind of scared AD carries to play, and we've seen both of them in their own rights play very, very aggressively in their opponent's face and kind of take the issue and really want to kind of get the game in their hands and find that game-winning play. So I've been really impressed with the two of them, especially as kind of newcomers to the league. And
oh, wow. Lele going very aggressive. I mean, he has the unbreaking will, so he'll be able to survive a little bit. Nice shot from JiaQi to get away from the Italy spear. Care going very aggressive and gets buster shotted away. Baron spawns in about a minute, so there's not a ton of major objectives to fight for right now. JiaQi has to rocket jump away as FPX have mid-prio and want to pick up this tier 3.
How much can they get for this? 5 grubs here. They'll open up the inhibitor at the very least. I don't know if they'll be able to finish off this entire inhibitor. Tangyuan is coming back. JiaQi's still not finished that recall. milkyway is here to try to defend his base with the rest of the team. As 30 seconds before that dragon, or before that Baron, huge thing to play for.
I mean, I'm just kind of confused why Lele decided to go at that moment. Ended up burning a chunk of his ADC's health bar, as well as just allowing that tier 3 turret to get destroyed because of it. Now FPX have themselves a little bit of a momentum shift in their favor. The goal is still very even. We're at that point in the game where everybody's at their core items. Teleport is coming in now here for Sheer. They know that this Baron is absolutely critical for them to force a game 5.
It's time to do the dance around this mid lane. Now Tangyuan is trying to find Q3 over this wall. Gets it off of the Raptors, is able to push Sheer off, and maybe they just try to find Xiaoxu to go and farm one of these waves. Finally, milkyway invests the flash.
Yeah, because
and it's 45 seconds before another dragon.
This game could have definitely been over. Q3 misses from Tangyuan once again. The Italy spears have 4 shouts to go back to base and teleport right back into the fight. Dragon is now also approaching its spawn. It would be once again Soul for RNG, but the Baron remains the priority for both of these sides. Topside River is a battleground right now for vision, for control, for any ounce of space that either side is willing to relent. Right now it's Sorrow throwing out the spears, trying to be as much of a nuisance as possible, but nobody willing to pull the trigger.
Now, I have been complaining, obviously, that Mountain Soul is just broken. FPX, though, are in a situation where if they go and contest for the Mountain Soul, FPX can pull them apart on the map by having Care and Sheer on side lanes with 5 grubs and a Baron. They will open up this base and make it very difficult for the side of RNG to play this game. Tangyuan is trying to find Q3, but he is in the bottom side. He's going to solo this objective. So RNG need to be creative and stop FPX from immediately obliterating this Baron.
And FPX know they gotta send this quick. Requiem comes out. Let's see how much damage it does. Not too much, especially with the healing and the spell shields. But if that's
Mountain Soul
chunking things in. Mountain Soul now claimed. Can Tangyuan get to the fight first? Lola starts the engage onto Care, but he's able to back away. Not a ton of follow-up off of the Alistar. The Baron is still alive.
Oh no, JiaQi!
RNG should be able to get it. JiaQi goes way too far forward though and will get shut down. It's a 4v5 on the map in favor of FPX. milkyway has run out of mana. milkyway is going to fall. The kill goes over to Care, and Tangyuan has to ult away to safety. 2 kills go over to FPX, but RNG get the Baron and the Soul.
Jwei played that so well. He tanks just enough damage from JiaQi to stop him from taking him down. And then JiaQi's just like, okay, I'm jumping forward, puts himself in a really bad spot. And that might just send us to game 5 here as FPX are now looking to push with this Baron buff and those 5 grubs.
It'll at least be the inhibitor. Tangyuan doing a nice job to clear out the wave in mid to make sure it would be way too long until the next wave arrives and FPX cannot go for the end. Very nicely done with the Soul Unbound there from the Yone, the mid laner for RNG, to allow his team to get one last chance. Hey, and remember, Baron buff still available for the next 2 minutes on these 3 players. Xiaoxu, Tangyuan, and Lele will all have that buff, will all have the ability to throw out these empowered minions as we send it to this replay around the Baron buff.
Oh man, great locket coming in from Jwei, and then JiaQi just gets this damage down. There's no Leona ult here, but with Lele finding this engage, JiaQi tries to jump forward. If he had jumped a little bit more directly into FPX, then it's a problem, but he doesn't have the jump anymore. He no longer has flash. And that just opens up the amount of time for FPX. The fight is already split. Your damage dealers were nowhere near any of this. And means that it's the Baron, big team fight win. And now FPX have the Baron buff for another, or sorry, RNG, grab themselves the Baron buff. They're able to push out some of these waves, but this is more of a stopgap measure versus FPX.
Yeah, this is kind of a push in terms of a trade right now. The inhibitor definitely stifling things, as well as, of course, the death timers on both JiaQi and Milky Way. So they're not going to be able to use the Baron buff that they were able to claim very effectively. And that'll send us to another situation where major objectives are going to be available for the taking. Elder Dragon now also on the menu, as well as what could be the third Baron buff available.
I wonder now, because JiaQi's already finished 5 items here. He'll have his boots. I wonder if he actually just forgoes the feats of strength tier 3 boots and the gunmetal greaves and just decides to go for either the Zephyr or maybe even kind of going for the Merc Tread
look
boots.
at Care!
Oh my god, Care!
Care's dead. Tangyuan one-shot him with the flash ultimate.
That is a big member for FunPlus Phoenix, down for the count for the next 55 seconds and change. 4v5 on the map. Tangyuan sending his way back towards mid lane to clear this wave, try to pick up as many objectives as possible. The top lane inhibitor is dead, and mid lane wave is being escorted to try to make it a 2-for-1 special on the inhibs.
And all this time we've been talking about these 2 rookie AD carries, and it is Tangyuan who finally finds his angle on this Yone. I mean, the franchise player coming in for RNG, he's been in their development pipeline for such a long time, and he's finally kind of making good. It is a single series that we've been able to see from him. It was a rough 2024. Hopefully with this new roster and this lineup around him, we can kind of see that redemption arc. Milky Way and Tangyuan as a 2v2 duo. It wasn't just long ago that we just saw this team kind of make a huge run with that Ari and combo with Milky Way, but great find. Blind, by the way. There was no vision over this wall, and Care gets exploded. It's a shutdown, and it opens up the map for RNG.
What a series. This would be a statement for the lone representative retained by Royal Never Give Up from 2024 into 2025. Tangyuan, the mid laner on the Yone this time around, had big performances in each of RNG's wins, now has the opportunity to really put his carry pants on, has the full build, the upgraded boots as well, just the last thing he needs to finish off. But unfortunately, because the Baron buff expired at just the right time, Alk, there was no attempt for the end of the game. Care is back alive, albeit maybe a little bit more nervous than he was before, and now it is time to wait again. Elder Dragon in 80 seconds and Baron in 90.
Ooh, JiaQi has actually gone for the upgraded plated steel caps here. So not going for the Zephyr, not going for the gunmetal greaves, but instead trying to get that HP shield, that physical damage shield that he gets from having the feats of strength completed. And that should allow him every 15 seconds to be a little bit more tanky versus someone like Care. It does not protect him versus the likes of Sorrow, and even Care has a certain amount of his kit that just deals straight up true damage. So it's going to be tough. Hopefully with this shield, he feels a little bit more empowered, and especially with Navori Flicker Blades, the uptime on his Q, the uptime on his W is going to be incredibly short.
Oh, and you see he's playing a little bit with fire here, as eating a ton of damage from Care. Doesn't matter though, because of the shield plus the Bloodthirster that he does possess. Dragon's falling in 30 seconds. Mountain Soul also playing a big role. We see Tangyuan being a nuisance down here in the bottom lane, trying to take down the lone remaining inhibitor turret with that Hull Breaker in hand. Nice job by Sheer to hold the line, at least for now, as we await for these objectives to spawn.
Oh my god. This is insane. Like, we're getting a 43-minute game. We're having Elder spawn for the first time here in the LPL for 2025. Baron's up in 10. There are so many objectives. I think right now both teams are more important. You just have to go for this Elder. The fact that it has that execute, with how high damage both of these teams are, you just can't give it over to someone like Nidalee or this Karthus.
That's a big cooldown. Jwei throws out the Solar Flare, does not hit anybody. They have to be very careful about the super minions in the top side. They are marching into the enemy base, and because of that, FPX must reset and seed the Elder Dragon over to RNG. It's going to be just bot there to clear things out. That
Nexus turret is dead, and now look at Tangyuan. Teleports are coming through. RNG might be trying to go for the throat. They have the execute at their disposal, but Tangyuan taken down to 50% HP, and will have to back away with the Ignite ticking on top of him. He still has a teleport available if they want to try to go for the throat here. Instead, they also have the option potentially to go towards Baron, but no, they want this game, and they want it now.
They've got a Tristana. I think it's perfectly reasonable. Tangyuan finishing off a Mercurial Scimitar. So he wants to make sure that he's off of this.
Gonna escort a wave of super minions in, a nice engage roll up combined with a two-man fade sealed. That is the Corki dead, that is Sorrow dead as well, and that will be the game, and that will be the series. Royal never give up, have a royal start to 2025, and they win the first best of 5 in Group D.
It's a 3-1 victory for them, and a great one at that. It was a little slow to start, but I'm glad that we get to see this RNG roster pick up a few more dubs. It's unfortunate for their opponents on the opposite side, as FPX, they showed a little bit of fight at the very beginning of the series, and there are moments of brightness, specifically coming in from this bottom lane, but they just weren't able to piece it together. I kind of feel bad. I obviously feel very bad for them just because how close this series felt.
It feels like still a work in progress for both teams. We can look back at this series and think about a ton of different things that could have been done better by RNG and by FPX, specifically towards FPX because, of course, they are on the losing end of things and have a very tough road to climb now if they want to find themselves with any shot of making it out of this group stage in the winter split. But for now, it is a good chance to shout out RNG. There's a lot of hype around milkyway coming back to his old team, his first match against the old organization that he was on in 2024. But it was some of the other players that really stepped up. JiaQi on in the 80 carry position, and of course Tangyuan in the mid lane, guy who was there from last season, really putting up a big fight. And if you're an RNG fan, you're excited about what this roster could potentially lead to in the coming months.
Especially because it's coming off of some of the players that I think a lot of the public had already maligned. Tangyuan did not have a good 2024 split, but all of RNG did not have a good 2024 at all. So you can kind of put it together in that manner. He had such big performances back to back to back in so many of these games now. So I really want to, again, give him credit where credit is due. Him and milkyway kind of covered for each other's weaknesses in a lot of instances there, where milkyway, if he ended up falling behind, Tangyuan found answers, found ways to get back into this game, and they have a bot lane that is starting to kind of come into their own. So I really am liking what we're getting from RNG. I think that they still have a lot to prove if they want to find upset wins versus NIP and IG. If these are best of 3s or BO2s, I could see them taking a full series. However, these are going to be very tough best of 5s for a team that is still, I think, limited in some manners.
Yeah, I mean, still, you know, things to look for and the like, but even if it's not this split, the promise of what could potentially be in store for RNG in split 2 or split 3, definitely prevalent after this series. We have, I believe, some of the post-game graphics as well as our player of the series to come, or player of the game to come. But what a way to start off the 2025 LPL split. The fact that, again, we have best of 5s fearless just all throughout the season is incredible. And they're just going to keep getting higher and higher stakes as we continue on over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, when we're talking about these groups, for anybody who's maybe unfamiliar with the format, you have 4 groups of 4. Top 2 advance to playoffs. All the bottom 2 teams, just done. They're done for split 1. And that is a really tough pill to swallow. I've talked about it earlier in the show, but every time I come on, I want to just say this LPL format is extremely cutthroat. It is not one where if you don't get the ball rolling, you can say, okay, hey, look, we suck spring. We can do better in summer. There will just be a lot of games we can play. Your season might even be done in June. You have to be able to kind of find some kind of ways of winning and very quickly adapt around that.
Yeah, I mean, it's very cutthroat, and that's why it is crushing for FPX to drop a series this early against a team that they definitely came into this day thinking that they could beat.
Still a lot to look forward to from this roster. I think Care really showed up in that last game in terms of the damage that he was able to output on the Corki. Sheer, I think overall is still a very promising player, although was put on weak side a little bit more than maybe I expected as we get a look at some of these replays here. This, of course, the most entertaining game of the season. Just really phenomenal gameplay, I would say, really, from all 10 members.
Yeah, this was a pretty great series. I mean, it got better as the game's gone on, especially this game 4. I think really exciting to watch as well. Kind of going down the list for FPX, I'm still excited about this bottom lane. I think Care showed a lot in this Corki game, but still leaves a lot to be desired in terms of his damage dealing alongside other champions, because it's great to do it on Corki. I need you to see you do it on some mages. I need to see you do it on some other champions. We did not see it in that Talia matchup versus Ahri. And obviously it wasn't enough to bring them the victory this time around. So him and just Sorrow. If Sorrow is going to be the starter, we had a lot of questions for this roster. We thought maybe Shadow being brought onto the team was going to be starting. Doesn't seem like it's going to be the case, at least for this series. Maybe that's going to be a change in the future, but even if they do change Sorrow out, does that really fix what FPX problems are? I don't think so, and a player change or personnel change might just take them a little bit too long to find any kind of footing.
Yeah, I mean, we saw how difficult it was for RNG to adjust with playing with the new roster at the Demacia Cup when they only had a couple days to scrim. Dealing with a roster change now when you basically can't afford to lose another series would be an interesting strategy to potentially take. But if that's what they need, maybe they can look at going forward. But it's so hard to tell, especially because we didn't see Shadow play, I don't think, all of last season. So we don't really know what he's going to be looking like and things like that. I think in general, we saw decent stuff from Sorrow across some of these games. I think the Nidalee in the early game definitely worked well in this one. But again, RNG just had a little bit too much juice. And one more shout out to this guy, Tangyuan.
I think it's very funny that you bring up Juice and RNG. They had a player formerly Juice playing on the team.
Oh.
It was not great, but the reference is there for people who watched RNG, unfortunately, last year. RNG, though, it's good to see. I want to be, very realistic. It's great that they found the win versus FPX, but this is also a team that showed, I think, a lot of mid-game weakness. milkyway in particular, we slammed this Karthus very early on into this draft, and it looked very useless for 25 minutes. And even, I think you can make arguments, was pretty useless for most of the game.
Yeah.
Because he kept getting caught out by Leona ult. He kept getting invaded by Sorrow's Nidalee. I think, again, these AP champions are just not really in the wheelhouse of someone like milkyway. And I'm glad to see him kind of continue to branch out and put games, put reps. But it is at potentially a deficit of, do we potentially give a game away because we're doing this?
We never gave our MVP.
He deserves it, man. That ult,
I
at the
think
end,
we were on the same
he
page
found
there.
Care. Yeah.
Okay,
It was
so
either going to be him or Jia, so
we'll say we're 4 for 4 then.
yeah.
We'll just roll with that. Yeah, again, really nice job from Tangyuan in that game. Back to Milky Way though. Could be a potential concern. Remember, we are in this fearless format for these best of 5s. If you are IG or you're NIP watching this and you kind of realize that there's a very specific class of champions that this guy really likes to play,
Yeah.
that can definitely be targeted, especially in fearless.
Could be a big issue as all right,
I
let's go.
was looking
Yeah,
too.
Tangyuan was doing great. So I'm really happy for this guy, and I want to see him succeed. Mostly because it's very fun to see like public narrative shift immediately for a player who had there are a lot of very funny clips. If you look for them, it's not hard, but there are some great Tangyuan clips that are pretty tough to watch. But if you can get performances like this is the upside, and I think can show some of the reward for a player who has been on the RNG development pathline for such a long time, and even see reflected in the votes. I think only rightfully so. Congrats to the one person who also tried to give it to Dutch. I agree with that person, but Tangyuan had way too much of a impact on this game to kind of be denied.
Yeah, so I think overall, a lot of really exciting pieces that weren't Milky Way for RNG makes me excited about the prospects of what this team really can become. Of course, they still have to play NIP and IG. That's when things could get, a little bit interesting in terms of what their schedule looks like. I don't remember exactly who's next up on the menu for them, but it will be one of those two teams, and they're going to need at least one upset, most likely, to make their way into the quarterfinals. But that's going to do it all for another day on LPL English. Once again, we'd like to thank all the viewers who are supporting us back home, watching, tuning in, all the like. We can take a look at our schedule for the rest of the week.